Peep rotation. There's nothing more frustrating than pulling your bow back on a nice buck only to not be able to see your pins clearly because your peep is rotated. This is something that I've personally experienced in the field and know Chris and Rick both have as well. In order to reduce this risk, we only pick high quality bowstrings to put on our bows. That is why this season we have partnered up with Hooked Up Bowstrings. If you are looking for a high quality string to help get you through the season, look no further than Hooked Up. Matt, the owner, is a fantastic guy. He is an accomplished competition archer and an accomplished hunter in the woods. You can visit his website at hookedupbowstrings.com. Use the code MOBILEHUNTER10. That's Mobile Hunter, the number 10, in order to get 10% off your order.
Hey guys, Rick here from the Mobile Hunter Podcast, and I'm here to tell you about one of our sponsors, Sadie's LLC, Custom Ammunition and Gun Works. Aaron Satterfield and his family have been turning out some awesome game loads that have been putting down deer, waterfowl, and turkey all year long. The Sadie's Fatty, the turkey load that we use, can stop a bird dead in its tracks. Check them out at saddiesllc.com. That's SATTIES LLC.com, or on Facebook at Saddies LLC, and tell them the Mobile Hunter Podcast sent you.
Welcome to the Mobile Hunter Podcast. Our mission is simple. We want to help you become a better hunter. We believe that mobility kills and efficiency will set you free.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Wild Calling Wednesdays. I'm here today with Lucas Jones of Broken Straw Media. Lucas has been everywhere, and he's seen a lot of things. And I have gotten to be friends with Lucas, meeting him at shows, met him through a mutual friend, Josh Talker. And he's always doing something new and interesting in a place that I wish I could be. And I think it's because Lucas is really good at filming and editing. And I think it's because he's pretty ambitious, too. So Lucas, I'm very, very excited to have you on and talk about these crazy stories you got with Whitetail Cribs today.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on, Jacob. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, we've been chilling for about 30 minutes or so here, and we tried to give like the most like 2-word overview of these different stories we could, and we're just like, man, there's so many. Like, there's so much good stuff to talk about, and I think what I really love about this episode we're about to record is like it's so behind the scenes on a lot of guys that everyone already knows. It's really cool to see. I mean, I always say what gave Dan his crazy following is that he's such a freaking interesting dude. And it's like cool to hear everything. Like he's fantastic at hunting, right? And that's obviously where he gained his rep and everything. But it helps a lot that every time in between he's talking about tactics, he's just interesting and has a great story. And he's like, I don't know if you've seen all the memes about dad lore recently, but that guy's got some great dad lore. Like he's got some awesome stuff to tell in between. And just from like the short stuff we've talked about, it seems like you have a bit of that from so many different people in the industry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've only been in the industry for going on 3, maybe 4 years now, I think, but I've seen quite a bit, I would like to say. So
yeah, for sure. And I guess to give you a bit of an intro, obviously Lucas has his own company. It's Broken Straw Media. Lucas, this is your own company, right?
Correct,
this is your
yes.
baby here. Yeah, and man, it's great looking, your media that you put out. I just remember seeing like 30-second highlights and like, wow, that would take me 6 days to make. But yeah, Lucas is very great he has a very artistic mind for gathering shots. And I always say, like, if you have crap footage on the front end, you can't make it look that pretty in the back end, no matter how hard you work. And I would say you have a really good balance of an artistic eye and editing skills.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it definitely takes a lot to make, I guess put lipstick on a pig is the best way to describe it. If you get sent footage from like a $50 Sony Handycam, it's not going to look like something that's on the Outdoor Channel. That's just a fact of life. But there is there's some things you can do to make it look and sound better. So,
yeah, absolutely, and you do a good job of it. So I got to know you when you were part of the Exodus guys and all the stuff you did for them. And obviously Exodus threw on the series Whitetail Cribs, and they went on a giant tour around the U.S. And you were on this recording it. And I guess even before we dive into the stories with all the things you encountered in Whitetail Cribs with Exodus, how did you land the job with Exodus? I heard that there was like a really interesting sequence of events that went down with your previous employment and all that.
Yeah. So before I worked for Exodus, I was an estimator / installer for a glazing company. So basically just like putting new glass in residential windows, fixing parts that broke on windows, stuff like that. And absolutely hated that job. My boss owned 3 franchises, 2 in Columbus, 1 in Cleveland. I worked at the one in Cleveland and he lived in Columbus. So I saw him once a week for like 4 hours. So it was literally like being on an island up there. And the installer that I worked with, I just did not get along with him at all. He was this big old fat dude from Boston with like a heavy Boston accent, like just the
stereotypical.
Yeah. He was not easy to work with. And I remember I was on my way back from my last appointment of the day, and I hit one of my numerous stop-by fishing holes just to catch, couple crappie, couple perch for dinner. And I got a call from my buddy Zach, who I do like a small YouTube channel with him, and he had a friend that worked at Exodus. He was like, "Hey, have you ever heard of Exodus? They're hiring." I'm like, "I've never heard of them before." Like, my extent of whitetail hunting, I guess, was, real tree and mossy oak, all the stuff that you see on the Outdoor Channel. So I went home, I filled out the application, and I sent them like, some of my previous work. So I'd done a couple things, more than a couple, I guess, videos here and there leading up to that. And I got lucky. I got a call to go in for a phone interview. Or no, I didn't go in for the phone interview. I took the phone interview in my work van after a job was finishing up getting installed. I took off for the day to go in for the in-person interview where, they brought you in, basically run you through the gauntlet of, filming a video in the studio, filming a video outside, give you a week to do it just to see like, what's your skill level? Can you actually get stuff done on a deadline? And I remember, just kind of waiting because I knew there was a couple different applicants, and it just got to a point at my old job where I had a screaming match with my installer. He hung up on me. I called him back and MF'd him for 5 minutes straight, hung up on him, went back to the office and typed up my letter of resignation. I did not care at that point. I was like, I'm either getting this Exodus job or I'm finding something else.
Yeah.
So quit that job on the spot. That was like a Thursday or whatever. Best night's sleep I've ever gotten in my life. And you want to talk about a absolute roller coaster of emotions for the next week. I quit that job on Thursday. Sunday, I woke up to a text from my buddies back home that we lost one of my friends in the friends group. And so like that next Monday, Tuesday, I was just not in a good mood. Woke up Wednesday morning. I was like, well, hopefully today's the day. I started perusing job listings. I got a call from Chad and Jake. They're like, "Hey, job's yours if you want it."
That's awesome.
Let's go. So
sweet.
That's the beginning of the roller coaster.
Yeah. Plenty of ups and downs already. Wow.
Yeah. So I, spent the rest of that week on a high note. Went in, started that very next Tuesday because that Monday was Memorial Day.
Yeah. So
went in, kind of got my office set up. We were still waiting on my laptop to come in. And day one, they're like, "Yeah, we're going to Wisconsin next week. Pack your bags."
Wow. That's cool, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's nerve wracking, but that's also really cool. Wow, they
Mhm.
must have been in a pinch to get someone in there too. I mean, if
It,
they're pushing it that close.
well,
But
originally the plan was they were going to bring the person in after they got back from Wisconsin, but I didn't have to put in a 2 weeks notice. I was already done.
yeah,
So
you were there. That's cool.
yeah.
That's nice. That's nice, man. Because like, I think a point to take away from that for a lot of people is that like you took a risk, and obviously you took a calculated risk. You know, you knew you were going to be looking around for other stuff. I'm sure you could afford to not have a job for 1 week.
Yeah.
But you took a calculated risk that, I mean, stuff was scary. Like things were uncertain, and you committed to working your ass off, and you decided that that's how it was going to be, and you made it work. And you know, sometimes that pays off for people, sometimes it doesn't. But I feel like what you need to do is rest on your ability to push through the adversity, and know that even if you choose a situation that might be difficult, that you'll make it the right one. You'll make it the right choice through hard work. And yeah, there's a lot of people out there that aren't leaving their job that they don't want to be at, or, you know, aren't asking for that raise they want, or they aren't committing to their dream, and they're putting it off till tomorrow. And I think a big point for everyone is make a calculated risk and go out there and get it.
You're not going to achieve your dreams if you don't take some risks. That's just the biggest thing I've learned in the past couple of years working in the outdoor industry is, like you were talking about, calculated risks. So
yeah, and you stand to gain nothing if you don't wager something. You know, you got to put up. You know, the reason that all different things in life that we love are valuable is because they're rare and they're hard to acquire.
Yep.
And you know, you don't stand to be happy if you don't also stand to be sad.
Yep.
Man, that's a good start right there. Wow.
Yeah.
So you've been thrown in this job, and now flash forward a couple moments and you're headed to Wisconsin.
Yeah. So my MacBook came in just in time for us to leave for Wisconsin. That's how new I was to Exodus.
Wow.
So drive out. It's me, Chad, and Cameron. We drove out from the office. We picked up Jake in Illinois, swung up around Chicago, and our first stop was in this little town, you know, probably about 3 hours north of Chicago. And, you know, I didn't know whose house we were going to. And Cameron just saying, "Oh, it's Joe Rentmeester." Like, you don't know who Joe Rentmeester is? I have no clue who that is. Little did I know, you know, that was, you know, a big part of the Hunting Beast. And then obviously, you know, he was on the Public Land Challenge with THP. Yeah. So, you know, first stop we make, I'm just kind of shadowing Cameron, just kind of watching like how he's doing things. And we're going through, and I guess the moment that it kind of clicked to me, like, wow, this guy's the real deal, was when he was telling the story of one of his early season Wisconsin bucks, where he knew this buck was bedded in this row of trees in between two fields. It was, you know, virtually impossible to get in there in daylight. So I think he either snuck in at like 2 a.m. or the night before, climbed up the tree like super, super slow. Took him an hour plus to get up in there, and literally sat there and waited for that buck to get up out of his bed. I was like, you know, wow. I grew up a Pennsylvania deer hunter, you know, archery here and there, wait for the first day of gun season, go sit on, you know, a rock or something, wait for deer to get pushed past you. Like, that was completely new to me. And like, that was cool getting to hear, you know, that story. And then sitting down and doing the podcast afterwards, that was actually, so that would have been 5 days into working for Exodus. That was the first podcast I ever filmed, was with Joe Rentmeester in his basement.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And like I said, at the time, I'm like, who's this guy again? Like, I have no clue who this is. It just kind of goes to show like how niche the outdoor industry can be at times.
It is. Yeah, it's funny. I always describe like the public land area specifically as a niche community within a niche community.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can be friggin' Elvis Presley in the public land hunting community, and it could be 0.2% of America even knows who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like probably way more gratuitous than what it really is.
Yep.
But it also shows that it's kind of a noble pursuit to be
Oh yeah.
to be in this space. You know, if you're involved in it, you're in it because you're passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're in it because you're passionate about what you do, and you don't really last if you aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
exactly. Yeah. Public land hunting is tough. I grew up doing that at our deer camp in Pennsylvania, and I just, I'm 30 years old. I just shot the very first buck ever up there last year. I've shot other bucks back home, but last year was the first year that I finally connected on public up there, which
that's cool.
I've been dying. Like, I had so many opportunities growing up that I either screwed up, or like I was taking my brother out and I wanted him to shoot and he screwed it up. Like, it was a long time coming. So,
yeah, I mean, I hunt and have hunted for a long time up in the Nicolet-Chequamegon National Forest in Florence, Wisconsin.
mm-hmm.
And I killed a few years ago like an 8-point or something like that. It was 6 or 8. Not a big deer, like 100 inches.
Oh
max,
yeah, that's
like absolutely 100 max. And then there hasn't been something even I mean, I wonder how long it's been for Pope and Young, but there hasn't been a Boone and Crockett registered since the 80s.
Oh
there.
man,
like even attempted to enter the books anywhere within that county, and and no one out there has seen a 120 in many years. But when I shot that 100-inch like little small buck was the same year I shot this lower one right here that was like 135, and everyone was freaking out. It was the biggest buck that anyone had seen there in 15 years, let alone shot. And it was the biggest buck anyone had shot there in probably 30, 35.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's a totally different thing. And I was super, super hyped about that deer because it was just like, I mean, your circumstances are what graduates the trophy, or what kind of determines the trophy. And to me, like, all the animals I have mounted or whatever are stories, and the more rich the story, not the bigger the size, but the more rich the story, the more I care about it and revere it. And that's a deer I revere very close.
Oh yeah,
I really love that.
That's the same thing. Actually, if you give me a sec, I'll go grab him here.
Yeah, go for it, man. Oh, that's cool. Nice, dude.
Yeah, so same thing, probably about
That's sweet.
100-inch. He was missing that, and he didn't really have that. But it had been 5 years since I shot a buck, and he stood in front of me for 20 minutes munching on acorns. So I just,
why not?
Yeah,
that's freaking cool, dude.
Got trigger happy, and I got it on film. So,
well, and you get to meet too, and you get to share it with your friends and family. That's just, I mean, there's nothing better than that. I actually, I had a coworker ask me today. He's like, "Hey, I want to gun hunt this year." He's like, "I've never hunted anything ever, and I want to gun hunt deer. Like, what do I do?" And I was like, "That's a huge question," because like, I'm like, how do I, at this guy's age of almost 30 years old, like, how do I show him the tradition? You know, like, how do I? There's no video that does perfect respect to it. Everyone is like, show him tactics videos. I'm like, this guy doesn't want to watch tactics.
No,
like he just, I want to show him what hunting's about, and it's just. You don't realize how special that is until you try to describe it to someone, and you realize there's years and years of experience and layers to this that you just, I mean, you couldn't possibly, you can try to encapsulate it in a video, and you can do it partially, but you can't give someone that experience in a year. It's just not possible.
No, like that.
Yeah.
That spot that I shot that buck, I found that spot probably only 4 or 5 years ago, and it's literally 200 yards away from the front door of camp.
Nice.
Like
how close everyone could have been.
Oh, and that spot's it's a combination of a couple different things all coming together in one area. There's like 4 or 5 scrapes right there. I ran a camera there, and there's some nice deer that walked past there
Mhm.
that I was waiting on, but yeah, I couldn't pass that up.
That's all right, man. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
You
it's
you got so keep going. Sorry.
yeah. I was gonna say we'll kind of get back on track here after
Sure.
that rabbit hole.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
So,
guess a segue is I've been seeing a lot of Joe Rentmeester like posting with
Mhm.
his son actually, and
Yeah.
and some really cool videos out of him passing on that tradition.
Mhm.
Do you have any more stories from Joe? And I know we got another exciting leg coming up here after Joe.
Not really from Joe.
Well, I mean, you
Um,
already had so much. You get to
yeah.
see the dude's collection. You
Yeah.
get introduced to a pretty badass public land hunter, well
Oh, yeah.
known, and then your first podcast is with Joe Rentmeester.
Yeah.
That's pretty freaking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And so from there, I know you moved on to a guy I'm pretty familiar with.
Oh,
Who
yeah.
did you go to next?
So the very next person, which Joe rode down with us, the very next person was the one and only Dan Infalt. So again, I was like, who's Dan Infalt? Like I had never heard of him before that. Quick little side note, we actually share a birthday, me and Dan. We figured that
January
out.
11th. That's
Yep.
my brother's birthday and like 9 other people I know.
Yep, we figured that out at deer camp in Wisconsin. So we're driving down the road, heading back a little bit towards civilization. And, Chad and Jake and Cam have filmed with him before, but his collection was actually at his taxidermist. So we called Dan when we were getting close, like, hey, it's around lunchtime. Like, this is, pick whatever restaurant you want to go to. Like, it doesn't matter. Just like pick anywhere you want to go. He's like, all right, meet us at Subway. Like, you could have had the pick of the litter on the company card, like anything you wanted to eat. He picked Subway. I was like, all right.
I think that just that perfectly encapsulates who Dan is.
Yeah.
He's got his stuff, his strategy, knows what he likes, and that's his way, man, and it works. And it's funny, we went to you actually told me about that. I sent you a picture of Dan like chewing on a sub or something like that from Kalamazoo, but we rode back together last year after the Kalamazoo Mobile Hunter Expo, and he's like, "Oh, we should stop at Subway. Like we got to get Subway." And he found out that there's a sub called the Beast. And he's like, I gotta get it. He's like, I got to. And so he gets the Beast, and which is already actually a beast of meat, and he gets like a whole bunch of different peppers and veggies and whatnot on him. And dude, like I've never seen him so happy. I mean, I've seen him with bucks, and I've never seen him as happy as I did with that sub.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was. That was an interesting, I guess. First time meeting Dan. We met him in the parking lot of this mini mall where the Subway was. He gets out of his truck, and he's got sandals, jeans, and a shirt that says "Even my cat hates Biden" on.
Yep, that is Dan to a T, man. He is exactly how he comes. You'll see it. How did you get to hearing any stories from Dan? Just that you need to know any of the stories, but how is it like? Because I know exactly what it's like to be around Dan when he starts riffing and going off stories.
So,
dude's a wizard with it.
Yeah, some of his stories. Cameron filmed that one, but I actually got to edit that episode of Whitetail Cribs, and there's probably 4 or 5 kills on there that I'm like, we can't put this on YouTube. Like it'll get flagged immediately.
Oh my gosh.
There was a couple where I was like, I don't know about that one.
There's some that he talks about where like blood's flying.
Oh yeah.
Just the craziest stuff.
Like taking the one, like he took his buddy out or whatever, and the buck walked like past him out of range, and the buddy shot it, hit it back, and he had to go in and like put 2 more arrows in it, like one from the stand and like walk up and one on the ground. And he's talking about like just blood like squirting like a fountain out of the deer. I'm like,
he shot a deer one time in like the ass, like wherever the femoral artery comes through. And he said he almost got sprayed. He might have said he did, but I know it. Like he said, he had like a 10-foot spray of blood come out of the deer. I'm like, Dan, I don't think we can really tell this to any. I mean, we're on a podcast right now, but screw it. I mean, this is Wild Calling Wednesdays, man. There's no holds barred here, but but for your average YouTube video, man, like The guy is who he is and tells it how it is, and that's it. Yeah, I respect him a lot for that.
Yeah, I think that's actually the same deer that we were talking about there. I remember going over to Cameron like, you think we're gonna get flagged for this on YouTube? And I played it for him. He's like, yeah, we're not putting that in there.
It's funny too, because like there could be 5 different. I mean, the guy's killed so many deer. Like there could be 5 different deer that have that same kind of aspect to it too. It's wild. Dan he's a never-ending storybook, and he is probably designed for this series. Like
for
just
sure.
Crazy stories, man.
Yeah, like his collection too was unreal.
Oh yeah.
It almost didn't do some of those bucks justice. Like his biggest buck to date is halfway up the wall, kind of tucked in the corner.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it scored, but it kind of had like kickers and stuff coming all over the place. Mm-hmm. But like just some of those deer you look at and you're like, you shot this on Wisconsin public.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, if you want to hear all the stories, obviously go watch the video, but
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, he is. Oh man. And you'll notice that when you see his collection, a lot of the biggest deer he shot are not given the light. Like it's the ones he has crazy stories with, the goofy racks. He's just like me. Like he just wants to. He cares about the adventure. It's not the size of the buck; it's the size of the adventure. You hear him say that all the time. And man, does he have a lot of very big adventures. And
yes.
Could listen to the guy talk about it for days.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, we got to go to Beast Gear HQ, go check out the stands, which was pretty sweet. That was cool to go see that. Got to meet.
They have awesome facilities there.
Yeah, I'm sure. That was 3 years ago now, so I'm sure it's been updated since I was there. But yeah, we got to meet Mario, and Chad and Jake did a podcast with Dan and Mario. And again, Cameron was like drooling almost, like, oh, this is awesome. It's going to be a sweet podcast. I'm like, who are these guys? And just, I was that naive to, I guess, the industry and the niche that we were in. So
yeah, that's cool though. I mean, you get to see it unadulterated. You get to see it like at face value. You don't have, but you start to learn how special these people are just listening to them and seeing them and how they interact with others and stuff like that.
Yeah. So while we're on the topic, I got, I guess, another cool, kind of crazy Dan Infalt story. I got to go film Chad. I think that would have been 2022 up at the fort, as he called it.
Oh yeah.
So it was, late season archery only in Wisconsin. And, I've ice fished before. I filmed ice fishing tournaments. Like I'm, no stranger to cold weather, but Wisconsin in January, dude, like it was a Monday through Friday. We woke up that Friday morning at like 7:30 and the thermometer outside legitimately read negative 23 degrees.
Yep.
And Chad and I looked at each other like, yeah, we're going home. We're not hunting this. But I will.
Oh, and you hear Dan clacking icicles off his beard and stuff and from a mile away.
So in that cabin was me, Chad, Dan. That's where I first met Josh Tulker. Uncle Lou, which that was my first time meeting Uncle Lou. And
he's a great guy.
That's someone you never forget. And then we had Kevin and Alex from Latitude in there as well. And that was back when it was literally just those guys with Latitude, and that was it.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget waking up one morning because Chad and I slept out in the living room, and Dan is like, he has one light on in the kitchen, and he is literally sitting there, coffee in one hand and giant hunk of cheese in the other, just cheese, coffee, just like going back and forth. And he puts the cheese down and picks up a big hunk of trail bologna and is just like taking bites out of a big chunk he's holding in his hand. Like, like half awake, like looking at this. I'm like, what is going on here?
Dan he's a big portions kind of guy, but just
Mm-hmm.
giant portions.
Yeah.
He goes by portions, but just 5 times the portion
Oh
that
yeah.
a normal person would. Like
Yeah.
he'll take a sandwich and he'll take like a bunch of sliced cheese and bunch of ham, and we'll take the whole containers and just put it between bread.
Mm-hmm.
Don't even layer it, just all together. Like
Yeah.
he's got some interesting eating habits, and it works for him. Like the dude's hunting at an age I sure as hell hope I can
Oh,
I can hunt at. There's a lot of people that can't walk at his age, let alone hunt, and he's freaking doing it just as good as any young guy is. That's for sure.
and doing it mobile too.
Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah,
So after Dan, I mean, that guy leaves a mark on you. Like,
oh yeah.
you never forget a time with Dan.
Yeah, he's truly one in a million. Just listening to him after, like, we would all come back in from freezing our asses off. You know, like Chad and I saw one decent buck that was bedded by the road, and that was it. And Dan's like, honing in on a deer in January with a bow on public land. I'm just like, how do you do that up here? Like, we literally we were doing loops around the entire fort and just scratching our heads like, where the heck are these deer? And he's instantly in on them.
Yeah,
So
that's impressive.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So back to the first cribs trip. We're still, week 2 of working at Exodus here. After that, we do a couple, regular Joes in and around Wisconsin, and then we go the whole way across the state to the border, actually, and we go to this guy again, another person. I had no clue who he was, and Cameron's like, "Hey, we're going to Jeff Sturgis's farm that he just added onto, like his house that he's just finishing up right now." I'm like, again, like, who is that? No clue. And, these are all guys that, have big followings on YouTube, and I'm just clueless.
Right.
So we pull up the night before, actually. Jeff didn't get to bed until he told us like midnight, 1 o'clock, because he was literally finishing hanging all of his deer the night before we got there. That's how soon after he finished the house that we were there.
Wow.
So we get there. The house was freaking gorgeous. Like, they took all this old oak wood flooring out of a factory and somewhere along the river. I can't remember where, but that was all their floor. Like, the outside looked like an old barn, but the inside was just your picture perfect, like, deer hunting house. It was beautiful. And then, of course, upstairs, he has all his heads on the wall. And we got to, pardon me, obviously we got to record the cribs with him. We recorded a podcast there as well. We actually recorded 3 podcasts there with him. We were there for 2 days with him. And I got to film the podcast, which, I mean, that's just press some button on 2 cameras on a tripod and making sure they don't die. So not much skill involved with that. But my first, I guess, like, true test of, like, out in the field was riding in the side-by-side with Jeff Sturgis filming the property tour. And let me tell you, still to this day, one of the best properties for whitetail I've ever walked. Just he thought of literally everything. It's like, food, bed to food. He's got that covered, like rut funnels, scrape lines. Like, he has everything covered. And the cool part, I won't, divulge too much so the Onyx vultures don't start looking. But the cool part is the main, like, destination food sources around him, he doesn't own. It's someone else that owns it, and they farm it. And he literally just owns all of the funnels going up into that food. Just absolutely killer.
Wow.
So we did that.
He's a wizard with land management, man. He's great with it.
Yeah. And you want to talk about someone that, you you can just give him a topic and he can just go. Like, we stood at a scrape and filmed a video for Exodus talking, I think it was like summertime trail cameras on mock scrapes or something like that. And he talked for, I think, 15, 20 minutes about it. I had to literally cut stuff out of that to get it down to like a 10 to 12 minute video.
Wow.
And so we ended up,
You know, I don't mean to cut you off, but I have another Dan story.
You're good.
Because it's funny you talk about the Onyx vultures. Dan, when we were in Nebraska.
Hey guys, Rick here from the Mobile Hunter Podcast, and I'm here to tell you about one of our sponsors, Sadie's LLC, Custom Ammunition and Gun Works. Aaron Satterfield and his family have been turning out some awesome game loads that have been putting down deer, waterfowl, and turkey all year long. The Sadie's Fatty, the turkey load that we use, can stop a bird dead in its tracks. Check them out at saddiesllc.com. That's SATTIES LLC.com, or on Facebook at Saddies LLC, and tell them the Mobile Hunter Podcast sent you.
Dan, when we were in Nebraska last year, purposely put in a video, like, he's like, you know, everyone calls this property the Holy Land because it's shaped like a big cross, and there's no other piece in Nebraska that's shaped like it. And like, he was totally lying like the whole time, and a bunch of people are commenting about like how, like, well, you shouldn't have mentioned that. Now everyone knows where it is, and now like people were commenting like, I know right where that is now, and like he was just totally bullshitting them. It was so funny. Yeah. But we were like, you know, if we kill one, we got to say it was in like the T-Mobile National Forest or like the AT&T, like just name it like a Super Bowl stadium and be like, everyone, I know where that is. I killed a buck there. Like, it's so funny. Everyone wants to know where you're at. No one wants to know, especially for guys that like give tactics. Like, they're giving you the tools to find the spot yourself. You know, like, do that. Don't find where I'm at. You know.
So, funny side story about that topic, real quick here. That hunt, you know, Chad went up twice to hunt with Dan at the fort that one year. We actually, our customer service rep, got a call from some dude in Wisconsin that was so upset that we were hunting his spot that he actually took the time to call the Exodus customer service line and chirp at our customer service guy for like 10, 15 minutes about it. And
I know who it was too. I know exactly who it was.
Yeah, because I
talked to the guy.
He chirped at you guys too, and like, dude, this is a customer service line. Why are you calling us right now about this?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, it's tough. It's the nature of the game, man. Like, you spread hunting to thousands of people, and you're gonna upset a couple.
Oh yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that they haven't named property since then, but you know, they're trying to give people a direct application to something that they can go look at a map. But yeah, it's unfortunate for all parties involved, but that is funny. That was pretty crazy. I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, he called everyone. Like, he called the guys from Latitude. I'm pretty sure he tried to call Stealth Strips too. Like, come on, really? Yeah. Anyways, so we were at Jeff Sturgis. So we spent first day there on his. We did the property tour the first day. The second day was supposed to rain, so that's when we did everything inside. So we went down the road to the nearest town, and we were, you know, like we always do, we just drive around, and if this spot has a hotel, we'll just stop there, get a hotel room. Turns out this little town that we stopped in Wisconsin was having a cheese festival that weekend.
And it's funny because that doesn't narrow it down.
Yeah,
that could be any town in Wisconsin.
Yeah, so we literally spent over an hour just going from hotel to hotel to hotel. Like, hey, do you guys have a room? Do you guys have a room? And we literally got the last 2 hotel rooms in the entire town that night at like 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
Like, I would have never expected that from a town of this size. You know, granted, there was only like 4 or 5 hotels there, but I think the only reason they had hotels was because they're, you know, right off a highway there.
That's funny.
Yeah. So next day we woke up, went and we filmed the cribs, we filmed the podcast, and set our, you know, said our goodbyes, and we went down, I guess, down the Mississippi a little bit, and we went to this guy, Chris West, who he was also on Cribs. Another cool episode if you want to go check it out. But the cool part with that one was his dad. I'm not sure about across the United States, but I know for sure in Minnesota, his dad has the record for the farthest east mule deer buck ever shot and killed. It was on the pretty much like 2 miles away from the Mississippi River in Minnesota. That's how far east that
Holy
mule deer
crap.
buck traveled. Yeah. And granted, it wasn't, a huge monster, but still, it was a mule
Yeah,
deer.
but a mule deer. Holy crap.
A mule deer buck 2 miles away from the Wisconsin Minnesota line.
I mean, we struggled to find mule deer in like almost borderline western Nebraska, let alone all the wow. And that's pretty dang far north too.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That is wild. I couldn't imagine it. Like, if I was hunting in that area and I saw a mule deer, I'd probably shit myself. I'd probably shit myself and turn my safety off. I'll tell you that much. But
I'd shoot it too, for sure.
yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, when you actually look at the rack, I mean, it's not giant, so you would think like, oh, maybe it's just a funky looking whitetail. But no, it was an actual mule deer buck. So
Yeah. Wow, that's wild.
Yep.
Man.
And then, so that one was cool. He had a cool little setup there, just way back in the holler. And after that, we hopped back across the river for our one of our final stops. And like, Cameron was so amped up for this one. And it was another one that I'm like, who is this?
Who is it? Yeah.
He's like, dude, you don't know who Jared Scheffler is? I'm like, no. Who is that? He's like, you've never watched Whitetail Adrenaline? No. Again, like, who is this? So yeah, that was, and keep in mind, this is all first 2 weeks of working at Exodus.
Jeez.
I'm like, who are these guys? And I got to meet Dan Infalt, Jeff Sturgis, Joe Rentmeester, Jared Scheffler. And I was like, it was, looking back, I'm like, that was a heck of a lineup there. But
yeah.
Jared's still to this day, I think, is one of my favorite, like, I guess, stops on a trip ever. Because Jared opens up the door. And I mean, if you've ever met him at any of the shows, like, you know what I'm talking about when I say, like, he is a wild man. He opens up the door and flip-flops, Bermuda shorts, God, I can't remember what podcast it was. He had, it was a Working Class Bow Hunter podcast Jared on.
I figured it would be that.
And a fedora. I'm like,
yep, he always wears fedoras.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I look at camera like, this is the guy that you're excited to meet. And so we go into his house, and like, he very much, I guess, is the definition of kind of scatterbrained. Like, a lot of us are that are, editors and really like getting into the creative side. But like, we walk into his house, and on his kitchen table, I kid you not, there's 3 brand new Garmin units sitting there. Like, not just the little, like, the little kayak ones, like the 9 and 11 inch Garmin fish finder units sitting there still on the box. I'm going to get a little camera nerdy here. There's 2 Sony FS7s sitting in the boxes there, just on his kitchen table. I'm like, dude, that's several $1,000s worth of electronics just sitting on your table.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm like, what the heck? And so we go downstairs to the editing cave where he puts together Whitetail Adrenaline. And, there are a couple deer on the wall here and there. And obviously the thing that I'm like, holy shit, that's awesome, is his editing setup that is literally 4 monitors across the desk and then a big like 60-inch TV that's all connected. And I'm like, rolling my jaw up off the floor looking at that like, holy shit. And so we start going through, filming the cribs, and he has, I don't know, like 5 or 6 deer on the wall. And we're going through, and he's like, yeah, this one's all right. Like, yeah, that one's not really a cool story. And it's like 140-inch 8-point he shot in Wisconsin. That's shoulder mount. I'm like,
jeez,
this is going to be a 5-minute episode. Like, where's the rest of the deer? So we get through all the ones on the wall, and he goes back and he's like, all right, time to get in the good collection. And he hops up on this pool table that's literally in the back corner of his room behind a couch. I'm like, this is the good part. And proceeds to just start pulling out Euro and Deadhead and after like rack after rack after rack, sitting in a pile in the corner of his room underneath a pool table.
Wow.
Like there was 20 plus racks under there, including the original Kansas typical that he shot with the longbow on, I can't remember what episode that is, but that big, like 180, 190 inch giant that he shot out there.
Right.
Yeah. The original Euro was sitting in a pile of 20 other Euros in the corner of his basement under a pool table.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just like, what is going on right now?
I can't imagine not getting a shoulder mount of that thing. But hey, I mean, different things for everyone, man. I like seeing the deer the way that I saw it when I shot it, but
yeah. So
I mean, if he can pick out a rack from a pile and just relive that story and speak it, and he's definitely got the same respect for it.
Oh yeah. So when we're filming it, he's literally standing like 1 foot on the top of his couch, 1 foot on the pool table, picking up racks. Like, yeah, this buck was cool. It's an awesome story. And it's like, 130, 140 inch typical from Wisconsin. He's literally handing me the racks and I'm like putting them on the couch and on the floor. Like, and then he hands me that Kansas giant and I just like, I'm holding it in my hands like, holy shit.
Yeah. Sucker's got some weight to it.
Yeah. Like insane. The G2s on that were out of this world. Like I don't even know how long they were. They were longer than my forearm. Like just insanely tall.
Yeah, that was a spectacular buck.
Yeah. Well, he has a couple replicas made that he totes around to the shows, but I would hope that, he has since moved to Iowa. So I would hope that, he has that properly on display in his editing den there. But so then
absolutely. That is so cool.
Yeah, that was freaking awesome. And then after that, Cameron and I got the tour of like his editing and filming rooms.
And you're like, now this guy's legit. Now I get it. Like,
so in his basement, he literally had an entire spare bedroom just for servers and like the towers to power all the monitors.
Wow.
He had a bundle of cords that was like the size of a baseball running into this room. And there was
crap.
There was a spare bed, a desk, and then just piles of servers, hard drives everywhere. Like it was nuts. And so he's like, you want to go check out the camera room? I'm like, yeah, definitely. We go upstairs and it's another spare bedroom. Like, how many bedrooms do you have in this house? And he opens it and it's like, there's nothing in this room except camera gear. And on the floor, he has 4 Sony, I think they were FX9s, I want to say.
Wow.
Don't quote me on that. Whatever the previous like Sony's came out with, newer, I guess cinema cameras, the FX3, the 6, and the 9. So whatever the one before that was, their big one, like the next step down from the Sony Venice. But he legit had 4 cinema cameras sitting on the ground, all rigged up, ready to go. And he like hands me one, puts it on. He like throws it on my shoulders, like, here, how would you like running around the prairies with this? And like I'm just like awestruck, like, holy shit, this is an insane camera. Like he's got it rigged out with V mounts on the back. He's got a big power zoom lens. It's like that freaking big on the front. He's got it on a set of rails that you literally either have to put it on your shoulder or you have to use one of those easy rigs. It's like the crane that comes over top of you and it has the cable that comes down. And so, that was awesome. But I'm like, that's a lot of money you just kind of got.
Yeah,
laying
he
on
does
the floor
not
there in
spare
the
any
bedroom.
expense.
No.
He spares no expense to make those films as quality as possible. It's really impressive.
And I think now he has since sold all those. He has those were the new FX9s there. He had 4 of them sitting there. That's when they had just first came out.
Oh, yeah.
That's why he had the FS7 sitting in the box because he was getting ready to sell them.
Yeah.
So, driving back after that, we were, talking about like how cool of an experience that was. And, Jake was like, dude, you were like in awe with those cameras. Like, Jake, do you realize like how much money I had sitting on my shoulder? And he's like, no, what? And I'm like, that was like, a 5-figure setup there.
Yeah, like worth more than the shoulder.
Yeah. And he had 4 of them just laying on the ground in his bedroom.
Jesus. That's wild, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the first 2 weeks of working at Exodus. It was
Wow.
It was wild.
That is cool.
Yeah.
And did you go even further with even more Whitetail Crib episodes? Because I know we talked about
Oh yeah,
a few of your other little behind the scenes favorites. I know Michael Huntsucker, I think, was one of them.
Yep. So a month later, we were back on the road again. This time, Cameron and I took a plane out to Kansas.
Oh, cool.
So we kind of bounced around Kansas and a little bit of Missouri, and stop number 1 was Michael Huntsucker from Heartland Bowhunter. And that was my inspiration to get into, filming hunts, was growing up watching Heartland Bowhunter. I was always in awe at, the stuff they were putting out. And when Cameron told me that was stop number 1, I'm like, heck yeah, let's go. Like, this is going to be
high
awesome.
note.
Yeah. So we walk in his house, and I was kind of surprised with his house. He has since moved. He lived in a subdevelopment with a golf course in the middle of it, which I was like, this is one of the biggest names in outdoor television, and he lives in a subdevelopment in the suburbs. So turns out it's because not only does he like killing big bucks, but he also likes catching big bass, and he also likes golfing. So yeah,
he's busy all year.
The 5th green was right across the street. So he'd either sneak over there and catch big bass, or he'd sneak over there and practice chipping and putting.
Oh, that's cool.
So
that's cool.
And his house, like, you want to talk about like the ultimate man cave. He has his office where he has, a couple mounts in there, a bunch of Outdoor Channel awards. He's got his big velvet buck in there. But as soon as you go downstairs, he has a whole wall that is just, I think it's a little more than pallet wood. It's, some pretty nice lumber on that wall, but it's just full of big bucks. And then in the corner, the State Record turkey. Yeah, he has
cool.
The record with a bow for the heaviest turkey in the state of Missouri. It was like almost 30 pounds or something like that. Just something giant.
That's a big bird, especially for Missouri. Holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
Jeez. I mean, that's a giant anywhere. That's an absolute giant anywhere. But holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
So I was in awe just that whole entire time. Cameron was filming it. I was doing some, behind the scenes stuff there. But just getting to hear all the stories of like bucks that I've seen him shoot on TV, and I'm like, this is awesome. And then getting to hear that Kodiak grizzly story in person while he's standing on the grizzly bear rug, that was one of those moments that you don't forget. That was so cool.
Yeah.
The biggest buck in his collection, though, it wasn't a buck. It was a set of sheds that he found. And like, you want to talk about big Midwest deer, like he held these things up and he's like holding the bases like this, like he can't even touch his fingers together.
Jeez.
And he told us where he found it. I'm not going to say where, but I was very, very, very surprised when he told us where it was.
Wow.
I'll tell you that one off camera.
Oh, you don't even need to tell me. You don't need to give me any. You don't need to give me any spots, man. But yeah, I found some unlikely places that had some very special deer before too.
Mm-hmm. So
that's crazy though.
That one was cool. Just the whole experience. Like, it was right after their Heartland premiere, so we each got 2 Yetis, which I still have mine somewhere. We got one of the Yetis with the Heartland Bowhunter logo laser engraved into it, which was pretty cool. And he is like, all these guys that I've talked about that I've met, like, they're the same person when the camera's rolling as they are when you're not recording. They are the same exact person.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
especially Hunsucker. I actually got a funny story about him too. I was at TAC a couple years back, and I was messing around on my phone or something, and I went to call one of my buddies, Mike, from back home, and I accidentally called Michael Hunsucker while sitting at the table at TAC. I'm like, oh shit, like, did not mean to do that. I haven't talked to him in over a year. Like, oops, my bad.
Mm-hmm.
And he calls me right back. I'm like, hey man, like, sorry, I hit the wrong contact there. It's like, oh, okay, you sure? He's like, everything all right? I'm like, yeah, like, sorry, I my bad. I did not mean to do that. He's like, all right, man, sounds good. Like, and
That's cool.
turns out he called me back while he was setting up for the Heartland premiere.
Oh, really? Holy
Yeah.
crap.
Because I saw on
Jeez.
Instagram later, like 3 hours later, that it was the Heartland premiere. I'm like, oh no, I butt dialed him while he was setting up for that.
Oh, that's cool that he called you back, though, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a down-to-earth dude right there.
He's like, everything all right? I'm like, yeah, like, my bad. I didn't mean to do that.
I'm just a dork. It's okay. Yeah. No, I've done that before. I've actually, my brother's name is Joe, and I've actually like tried to call my brother Joe and accidentally called Joe Miles. And Joe will like shoot you back with a text right away, like, hey, what's up, bub? And I'm like, sorry.
My bad.
Wrong Joe.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, after that, we did, kind of bounced around back and forth between Kansas and Missouri. And we went to this guy. His name was Rodney. I can't remember. I apologize, Rodney, if you're watching this. I can't remember his last name to save my life. But he was a union carpenter around the Kansas City area. And he was getting ready to retire. And he, like, his, I guess, side hustle / passion was metal art. So when you pull in his driveway, he has a full life replica of like a giant buck skeleton that he literally heat treated, bended, put together, and welded out of scrap metal.
Wow.
And it's just like lifelike size, like this big 12 point that's made out of metal, and it's just the skeleton like in the middle of his driveway. So cool.
Jeez.
And we get like over to his shop, I guess, and he's working on one that is another full-size replica that's jumping over a fence. And he's literally taking the metal and like welding each piece on there, like each individual rib, each individual leg bone. Like, it was so cool. And just
That is wild, dude.
Just to see that,
People
like,
have
in
some
person.
insane talent. I mean, that's just amazing. I'm a mechanical engineer for a full steel and bronze foundry, and we deal with a lot of repair, which is a lot of welding, and we deal with every size part you could imagine. And it is a pain to get that to do what you want it to do in a professional practice, let alone when you're building sculptures in your garage. That's wild. And then, I mean, obviously to have the artistic talent to put it together, jeez.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Just like he made like each individual vertebrae along the back too.
Wow.
Like, had to have taken him weeks to do this. It was.
He wouldn't
so
happen to
cool.
be like trying to get rid of one of these for like $50 because I could be in the market. Like,
I don't know about 50,
so
but
cool.
he does.
Yeah,
sell
I
them.
mean, I feel like it should be 5,000, but
Oh yeah, he I think the link to his stuff is on his episode of Whitetail Cribs. I think it's just like
cool,
insane metal deer statue or something like that. You
cool.
Can't miss it. It's right when we dropped all the Kansas episodes.
Nice. Nice. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah. So then after that, we went way west, way out into the prairie. And the next stop we made was, again, more people that were in the industry that I had no clue who they were. We spent the day with Matt and Josh Tatum and Derek Jones, who were all formerly of Midwest Whitetail.
Yeah.
Again, never watched Midwest Whitetail a day in my life. but just getting to hang out with those three was awesome. Just hearing all of their experiences. And Josh, actually, he was a firefighter in the town that we were in, and he didn't have anything going on that day. The kids were already taken care of. So after we filmed his cribs, he's like, yeah, come on, I'll hop in with you. We'll go to Matt's house, and we'll go up to my dad's to film a couple deer. So the trip to his dad's house was like 40 minutes down the road. He's like, yeah, it's just right up the road. And we're going down like this windy, like stereotypical Kansas back road, just a 2-track going in between two fields. And like, we're in the middle of nowhere. He's like, stop the car. Okay. Like, what's up? And he doesn't say anything. He just gets out, reaches down into all this grass on the side of the road, picks up this baby raccoon that's sitting there. And he's like, what's up, fella? What you doing? And it turns out there was like 4 or 5 there. And Mama was like back in the grass, like kind of hissing at him. He's like, all right, well, we're going to put you back now. Like tucks him back in the grass and just gets back in the car all nonchalant.
Something about big buck killers and raccoons, man.
Mm-hmm.
Dan and him.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And so just riding around with him, like I think we got to meet like half the town that day. Like everybody knew who he was. We even stopped on the way back to drop him off from his brother Matt's house. We stopped because some lady was broken down on the side of the road, and he got out and was like, trying to help her like fix the overheating car because like there was smoke coming out of it.
Oh,
and so
wow.
like he's like grabbing water bottles, like trying to cool it down. Like he's calling in to the guys at the fire station, like trying to get this taken care of. Luckily, like it was just overheating. It wasn't anything too big, but like we're on the way back to this dude's house. He's going back to see his kids, and he's like, all right, stop here. I got to get out and help this lady. Like in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Just like super, super down to earth guy. Him.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Josh, Matt, and Derek, they were all awesome. Derek actually showed us kind of, getting a little camera nerdy here, but they had a jib that they made for doing some of those like big landscape shots on Midwest Whitetail. So like, back then they didn't have drones. So if you wanted an aerial shot, you were either renting a helicopter or you using what's called a jib. Basically like a big, how do I want to put it? It's like a big pole that's on a pivot. You pick up the one end, and it lifts the camera up on the other end. They literally, he still has it in his garage. They homemade one out of fence posts to do some of the shots.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's
So
awesome.
after that, we went even further out into the center part of the state, and we went out and stopped at this guy's house who, unbeknownst to me, would become a really good friend of mine. His name was Josh Stubbs, who is the owner of Elevate Stand Co.
Yeah.
And just getting to see his setup there, like he has been all over the country hunting in the lower 48 and in Canada and Alaska. Like we walk in, there's a massive freaking caribou in his living room over top of the fireplace. And you go downstairs and it is just a wall of just giant Kansas whitetails with the centerpiece.
That's cool.
The centerpiece being this buck right here, actually his 200 incher, which that story was alone. Like if you want to listen to that story, it's on Cribs, and also a little teaser. There may or may not be a feature film coming out on that buck, but edited by yours truly.
Nice.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, that one was awesome. But just seeing you walk downstairs into his basement, you walk into people's man caves, they got a couple bucks on the wall, maybe a bar or the TV. You walk down in his basement, you turn right. The first thing you see is a freaking Yukon moose on the wall. And then behind that's a wall of literally like 20, 25 whitetails. And then there's on the floor on a pedestal, like whitetail, pronghorn, mule deer, another pronghorn on the wall. And then we're going to kind of get a little off topic here, but he had a full body mount of a pintail, fully plumed out, sitting on his fireplace down there.
That's cool.
So yeah, that his setup his setup there was freaking awesome. And then it turned into.
That sounds like the ideal man cave right there.
Oh yeah, yeah. You walk out and you can see his whole backyard and everything. Just freaking awesome.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah. And so after that, we finished up at our last stop with Dan and Cody Thurston, which these guys I actually did recognize because I grew up watching, the Outdoor Channel. They were Bow Madness on Drury Outdoors, or as Dan would call it, Bow Sadness. So him and his son were on Drury's. They still are. And they ran an outfitter camp out of that, I guess, property they had there. And he had what's called I think it was either the 47 or 42 mile collection. I can't remember which, but he would go around like either buying, trading, or bartering for all these big bucks to put on his wall where he was having guys come into camp. And like his entire like upper wall was like probably a mid 190s average.
Oh my God.
Yeah. They literally had a pile sitting in the middle of this compound. Like it's like a big like steel building. They had a pile sitting in the middle there behind the table that they called too small for the wall. So they had a table sitting in the middle that was part of the too small for the wall collection that was all like mid 160s and under that they deemed too small.
Wow.
The one actually was, what was it? A buddy of his shot it. It was like 165-inch 10-point or something like that with a couple kickers here and there. And he traded it for 2 pizzas. Traded his buddy for 2 pizzas. No, it wasn't. Okay, so it wasn't his buddy. It was actually on the wall at some place he stopped to eat.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was one of those ones that was on the wall. And the guy was like, he asked him, he's like, hey, what do you want for it? And he's like, well, the pizza shop downtown closes here pretty soon. I'll tell you what, you go get me 2 pizzas when you got yourself a deal.
What the?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
I gotta start asking around shops with good pizzas in town.
Yeah.
I guess that's the key. Go to a bar, then you get some hungry drunk people, and they're willing to trade pizzas for deer, I guess.
Yeah, that story is in the episode of Cribs, so you'll get like the actual story of like where he got it from. But yeah, there was another set on that table that it wasn't like a full deadhead, but it was like a set of antlers. And again, just a freaking giant typical. It was probably mid 160s, high 160s that he bought off the neighbors because the neighbors was using it as a set of rattling antlers.
Oh my gosh.
So like just this giant set of sheds that was probably every bit of 22, 23-inch beams on it. He had it sitting outside of his ground blind on the ground using them for rattling antlers.
That's so funny. My buddy Rendell Eric, he's talking about this all summer or all spring, but he finally got a set of custom sheds back, and the sheds are sheds that he found. I think they're like 150 or 168 point sheds. It might be even bigger. They're absolutely massive, and of course Rendell's absolutely massive, so everything next to him looks small because he's so damn tall. But he got no balls, no bucks carved into these sheds. That. Yeah, he's been planning it for months, and he was so hyped to get those back. But dude, it's just like such overkill. But it's freaking awesome. They're loud. They make a great sound. They look cool.
Yeah, just I saw that picture floating around. Those are freaking massive for an 8-point.
Oh,
that's unreal.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So funny side story about Rendell. I do some work for JT Calls, and you want to talk about a funny dynamic. Rendell is, Jake from JT Calls was telling me, all about like meeting Rendell and hanging out with him at shows. And, Rendell is a freaking mountain of a man. And Jake is, Jake's shorter than I am. So like he's like, dude, you got to see this picture they took together. And he showed me it, and it's like Rendell right here. And like Jake's like way down here, looks like his little brother.
That's funny.
It was funny.
whenever Johnny Stewart took pictures with Randall in Iowa, Johnny would stand uphill to make it look like he was taller because Johnny's a little vertically challenged as well.
Mm-hmm.
It is funny. They're good dudes.
Oh yeah, yeah. We'll have
That's
to. We can. Well, I'm just about wrapped up with Kansas, but we can touch on his cribs. Actually, we filmed his episode of Cribs, which turns out he is 30 minutes east of where my camp is in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So we filmed his cribs the third day of gun season. So I met Cameron up there, and for the morning, we actually went out and went hunting with him. And
he loves to have guys out there.
Oh yeah, snow on the ground, just driving around the state forest. Like, he was in his element.
Oh yeah, that's Johnny.
And like, Johnny, like, the best way to describe him is he is the closest thing to a deer in human form that you wear.
Yeah,
like,
he's part deer.
Yeah, like, we're sitting there because he's like walking the edges of these hills, and he's putting Cameron and I, and then his buddy, like, in position for, if this buck breaks this way, it's going to go to you. If he breaks down, it's going to come to you guys. I literally picked up this set, and he followed it for literal miles, just trying to bump it to one of us. And he explained it. I'll never forget. He's like, this buck's walking around, trying to find his bed. Like, he lost his, like, where'd I park my car? Like, what? That is the quintessential, like, how he explains things. But yeah, we're going up, we're on some pretty big hills up there, and we can see him coming, like, from a good ways off. He had already tagged out, I think the first day, and like, he's walking these hills trying to bump this buck to us. And I swear he is like sprinting up hills that are like 50, 60 degree slopes.
And he doesn't have that long of a stride.
No,
but he's pushing it. He's chugging.
He moves so quickly through those hills. It is unreal.
Yeah.
And so we get back to go film his cribs, and this was a Whitetail Cribs first. We pull in the driveway, and his buck that he shot the day before is still in the driveway hanging in the tree. It's like, yeah, left it up for you guys. I figured that'd be cool for the episode. So that was
cool.
The first ever Cribs where, like, he got to show off his wall and his room. And then he's like, oh, yeah, I just shot that yesterday.
That's funny. What's funny is, like, you got a good chance if you show up at Johnny's house that there's probably a deer he killed not long ago hanging.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, if there was a person that you'd probably catch with a deer up, I would put a lot of money on it being Johnny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is an awesome individual. Big fan of him.
Yeah. One of a kind, man.
Yeah.
Great, nice
but
guy.
If you want to see probably one of the coolest deer camps ever, go watch his cribs. That one is awesome. Just the transformation.
That was a great episode.
The transformation of a little typical Pennsylvania deer camp into what he turned it into was insane.
Yeah.
So, and then I kind of got out of turn there, but earlier that year,
good.
This last one I'll hit on. I know we've been going for a while.
Very good.
Earlier that year, I got to go solo down to Deer Rassic and film Whitetail Cribs at the Ohio Whitetail Hall of Fame.
Oh,
and
nice.
That is like probably 150 plus deer in there, and it's got to be every bit of like a 205, 210 average in there. Just out of this world.
Wow.
Like, you got the Brad Germain bucks in there, which is tied with, I can't remember. I got corrected actually on the Cribs video. It's tied with some other guy for the state typical record for Ohio. It's like 202 and some change or something like that.
Wow.
Or 201, something stupid big like that. They got the Christmas tree buck in there, which was, God, I can't remember his name, but it was like almost a 300-inch deer. The Deer Society did a video on that one. They have a replica of the hole in the horn in there directly from Klaus Lebrecht himself. So Antlers by Klaus, they bought his like personal replica of the hole in the horn buck for the collection.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
They got the Bob Haney buck in there, which is just this massive freaking mainframe 8-point.
Yeah.
They got the hole in the horn.
It's huge.
The hole in the horn junior. That's I didn't realize there was a junior, but say like virtually same genetics, shot 20 years apart within about 10 miles of each other.
Really?
Mhm.
Wow.
And
That's freaking cool.
And then the Dave Kopp buck was in there, biggest unicorn buck in the world. It was like, mid 250s with a unicorn point coming straight out of his head.
Wow.
Yeah. And then there
double unicorn for the size, unicorn for the brow.
Yeah. Yep. It was just
That's cool.
freaking massive. And then a little controversial, they have a spook span buck in there.
Yep.
We'll leave that one at that.
Right. We don't need to dive into the controversy. It might be good for the views, but I don't really want to go there.
Yep. And then who's the guy with the Red Moon Guide? Oh God, I can't remember his name now. But they had all 4 of his 200-inch bucks in there.
Wow.
Oh, that's gonna bother
Adam
me now.
Hayes.
Yeah, Adam Hayes. Yeah, they had all 4 of Adam's 200.
I was like, damn, if I don't remember this.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome.
Yeah, they
all 4 of them. Too.
All 4 of them.
Wow.
So
Adam's a good dude.
Yep. And then probably the coolest one that I think I've ever seen, which I mean, if you think about it, all these trips that I've went on, like I've probably seen, I'd say close to 60, 70, 200-inch deer on the wall just from all these trips, maybe even more than that.
Wow.
Hands down, my favorite, the coolest one I've ever seen was in the Ohio Whitetail Hall of Fame. It was a 165-inch piebald.
Wow.
Yeah. That
is freaking cool.
They don't get that big.
Yeah.
So to see one that size was out of this world.
Holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to see one straight up, typical color and everything is amazing alone for one. Like a 165 is a stud, but a piebald.
Yeah,
that is so cool.
That was pretty crazy to see there. And then just that whole setup they have down there is so cool. They have a giant education center in there. So they're bringing field trips in, elementary, middle school, high school kids all over the place, always coming in there for the learning center. And in the back, we didn't show it on the actual episode because there were so many deer, we had to break it into 2 episodes. But we didn't really show it. In the back, he has pen raised deer.
Whoa.
Yeah. Just for
interesting.
Just to show like for the classroom, like that's literally
what the potential.
Yeah, that's literally all it is.
Yeah.
And he walked us down this hallway of all the different like pen raised deer, and just some of the ones that they had come through there, freaking giants, like 300+ inch deer, just chilling there, eating their lunch, looking at you. Like,
that is wild.
Yeah, they're a little wiry. Don't get me wrong. Like there was a couple pens where like, obviously I got the, behind the scenes tour. I got to go back around to where like he feeds them all. Like we'd pull up with side by side and they were gone, like did not want anything to do with us, which was kind of cool to see that like, it wasn't like a freaking petting zoo. Like like most high fence places are. But yeah, that place down there, that was such a cool experience.
Yeah. What a way to wrap it up too.
Yeah.
Like, what a way to wrap up your trip. Like to see all the different people that hunt all these different styles with these amazing stories and experiences, and then literally have the Hall of Fame to end it. That's just, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. That was very blessed with what I've been able to do the past couple of years. There isn't a day that goes by that, I got to pinch myself. Like, I get to do this for a living. Like that is awesome.
Dude. Well, it's because you work your ass off. I mean, it's you work hard and you're a master at what you do, and that's.
Oh yeah.
Well, the results come from the work, man.
I will say this. Obviously, there's going to be some people out there like, the must be nice crowd. Like,
yeah.
Must be nice to go out and see all this stuff. Well, the must be nice crowd did not see the 4 or 5 years of working a 9 to 5 and then coming home and taking online classes and teaching myself all of this.
Yeah.
Like I didn't go to a school for this. Like I literally did one of those master classes online, which I cannot recommend enough. Like if you want to get into this, like go get yourself educated on how to do this, because it'll take the learning curve from this to like straight up. But yeah, people don't see what goes on behind closed doors, all the hours that I put in just busting my hump trying to get better. I'm still trying to get better.
Yeah, always moving towards improvement, man.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a lot of people that just see the results and think that you were gifted with them, and that's just never the case.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, those people, they don't deserve the time that they're often given as far as homage to what they're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, we know we did the work. We don't have to answer to that, especially in your case. But man, that is awesome. That is such a crazy, cool behind the look at. I mean, you think about Whitetail Cribs, it's got to be one of the greatest whitetail tours of people in the United States that's ever been done.
Oh yeah.
I don't know anyone that really gathered the funding to just go check out all this stuff on their own, and man, to be able to document that too, and the episodes that you guys put out are just fantastic.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I mean, this is just, the couple trips that I went on. Like, think about Cameron was there from day one when they first started.
Right.
Think about some of the stuff that he's gotten to see doing this too. Like, we've been fortunate to go see some pretty cool stuff.
That's awesome, man. That is so cool.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're working on a lot of projects right now for a lot of different companies.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's some stuff that's kind of hush that you're working on as well. That some big drops coming up. But tell everyone kind of like where they can go find your stuff, the company you're a part of, and everything like that.
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram is where I'm most active. It's just brokenstraw_media. I'm bad at posting for myself just because like I got so much going on, but I have, sectioned off in the stories like everyone that I've worked with. I got some pretty cool stuff coming up this summer and this fall. I'm heading out to Arizona to go film an elk hunt in September. I'll be out in Missouri in October. The one I'm most excited for is January of 2025. I will be down on the Yucatan at X Flats filming flats fishing for permit, tarpon, and bonefish. That one,
nice.
That one I'm pretty stoked for. And then
it sounds like you're gathering some more stories for another episode.
Oh yeah. Well, this might have to be down the road, but there's the potential that next summer, because they didn't get it worked out in time this year, permits wise, next summer I might be spending a couple weeks up on Kodiak with a fishing guide up there too.
Damn.
Yeah.
Dude, put me in a suitcase. I'll go chase the bear around.
Yeah.
That is so cool, dude. Wow. Awesome.
Yeah.
And as far as Broken Straw, do you have a website or anything, or is it mostly the Instagram?
So it's mostly the Instagram. I do have some stuff on my YouTube channel. I made a highlight video probably 5-6 years ago at this point. It's poop. Don't watch it.
Well, and I know you had some other stuff out there too. So it's like there are things where I have little websites and stuff out there that I don't even direct people to anymore. But in case someone stumbles across it as they're looking up your name, Instagram's the way to go.
Yeah,
That's
Instagram or YouTube. I'll have playlists there for stuff I've done for
cool.
Elevate, JT Calls, Drawn Archery, Exodus, all that good happy jazz.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, check out some of Lucas's work, and he's got a lot of other stories that he has told and is going to tell in the future. Here.
Oh yeah,
I can speak for everyone. I say I'm really excited to hear a lot of them and see them play out.
Yep, I'm excited to see what kind of stories we can add this fall. I'm sure it's going to be interesting.
Awesome, man.
So,
well, Lucas, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you so much for sharing all those awesome stories with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's podcast. The best way you can support the podcast is by sharing online, and with your buddies at deer camp. Please follow us on Facebook and Instagram and leave us a 5-star review.